Remember as a kid, we would play all those fun games. One of them was follow the leader. Well, now that we're grown-ups, I guess the question is, would you follow yourself? You see, as leaders, we set the stage. We set the stage for trust, for integrity, for activities, and for performance. And sometimes we have to take a hard look in the mirror and really ask ourselves, would I stay or would I go? That's what we're talking about today on Clarity in Action, the importance of honest leadership. So get your notepad out because you're going to want to jot down some things for this one. Stay tuned. I'm Clara Capano, and this is Clarity in Action. Welcome to Clarity in Action. This is the show where we have real conversations that are going to challenge your perspectives and drive real action. So if you are tired of holding back and you're ready to make bold moves, this is the show for you. Join us as we are going to take you from confusion into clarity. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Clarity in Action. This one really rings true to what I say and what I talk about each and every day, and it's the idea of honest leadership. You know, sometimes as leaders, we have to really look in the mirror and take a cold, hard look at how we are showing up in order to inspire greater action and performance from our team. And to help me with this, I have my friend Theresa Murphy, and Theresa is the founder and founding partner of TLM HR Partners. So Theresa, thanks for being here with me today.
Thanks, Claire. It's great to be here with you, and I'm super excited to talk about the topic for today.
Yeah, you know, you and I have had a couple conversations off screen where this is something that's really passionate for both of us. You know, the idea that the leader really sets the stage for so much. And I would love to have you kind of kick us off by share what was your moment of clarity that you realized the importance of honest leadership?
Well, I tell you, the moment of clarity for me came in my experience, recent experience on the job, where I had a conversation with a manager who I needed to discipline an employee for inappropriate behavior, but felt that because his boss didn't have to be accountable for his behavior, that why should he have to hold this other employee accountable? And this goes into perception, because just because his manager isn't performing correctly doesn't mean that he shouldn't hold his employee accountable. And so this got me to thinking about, trust and accountability, and being able to walk a mile in the shoes of your employee and how this feels. So I pointed out to this manager that, you agree that as an employee, you don't like to be treated in this manner. And you've talked about whether or not you should stay or you should go because of how this manager treats you. And so you already recognize that that's not the way to hold somebody accountable, how a leader should be. Mm-hmm. And so you need to make sure that you are bringing up your managers and leaders to then emulate what you already know is a better practice. And so this is where I've really honed in on a presentation or workshop, if you will, on if I should I stay or should I go? What would keep me working at an employer versus what's going to have me hitting the road quickly? And both can be positive and negative, but there's a lot there that I think that today's leaders don't always recognize or keep in mind when they are developing their own leaders or their own skills.
And, I think it's interesting because many times leaders, came from the same background that their people are at in some shape or form, whether they started their own company because they did that before, whatever it may be, but they sort of have a background, but they lose touch in a way. And I think because of the evolution, because of adaptation and just changes, 5 years, 10 years down the road, I think there's this this paradigm and there's this conversation, whether spoken or unspoken, that you don't know what we're going through. So, how can a leader keep a pulse point on what's really happening and not lose touch at the same time, inspire the actions and the results that need to happen?
So again, it's such a great thought process to have, and for today's leader, they really have to remember where they come from, and through their own experiences, their own values and beliefs, they will be able to put together the way they can, because this is all dependent upon the individual and the experiences they've had. So somebody who is just coming out of college, maybe doesn't have a lot of experience in leadership, but has had courses and classes, they've learned, in a sense, textbook ways of of being a leader in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
And the most valuable thing that they can take with them, even though they may not have all the experience, is that regardless of what the textbook tells you, you already know what has made you feel good in the workplace and what hasn't. And so to keep that, in your circle of tools to reference, as far as I remember working, at where I was working at a convenience store, and this person just dismissed all of my ideas, wouldn't listen to me, and just really treated me as though I was a minion rather than a person.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that they need to remember.
Yeah.
Because that left them feeling alienated. That left them thinking, this isn't where I want to put a lot of my effort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Similarly, for those high performers, as a leader, trying to retain our talent is based on that trust and motivation and loyalty that comes in with paying attention to our high performers and not just disregarding them because, oh, well, they're great, they're already doing a wonderful job, so we don't need to give them feedback, we don't need to do that. And that right there will be a downfall and could potentially have somebody looking elsewhere for somebody where they feel more, for another company where they feel more appreciated.
Yeah.
Those are very important concepts.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I was just having a conversation with somebody else, and we were going through sort of their list and who they need to connect with. And the comment came up of, oh, they're fine. They're on autopilot. They're doing it. They don't want to hear from me. And I was like, you need to do your job. Whether they respond, whether they call you back, that's irrelevant. As the leader, you need to let them know that you're there thinking of them and that you're there for them. So call them, leave them a message, whatever you need to do, but that is your job. And don't ever just assume they're on autopilot and they don't need you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's assuming you have $1 in your pocket when you only have 25 cents.
Exactly.
Right?
So true. So true. So I want to come back to this concept of, should I stay or should I go? Or would I work for myself? So I want to get your opinion on both sides of this. Because again, you talk a lot about thinking about where you came from. So let's say you ask the question, would I work with me? Would I stay if I was in this organization? What if the answer is no? Where are some good places that you could start to change that so that the answer would be a yes?
Well, there's a couple different ways that you can look at that. And you can start with the 5 whys. Well, why wouldn't you stay with you? And if it's because, well, because I don't feel like I'm heard, why? You keep going with those whys, you're going to find the root cause, right? But just the fact of answering that question honestly, you already know what areas you need more attention.
Yeah.
Because what I have found is that a lot of leaders are in oblivion, and even if they say, of course I'd want to work with me, I mean, come on, I'm delightful.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of leaders are not in tune with their team. They have no idea the level of engagement. They may have a high performing team, but a team that's just scared out of their minds they're going to lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole different type of leadership and motivation than really what you want to have.
Yeah.
Ideally, anyway, I would imagine. And so I don't think there's any of us that are perfect leaders. We all have areas of growth. And so you start with the first thing that comes to your mind as far as, why would I work for me?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you can build that out along with the why won't I? But it's good to, especially when you're doing self-reflection, to think about, why would I
Mm-hmm.
stay?
Sure. Okay.
And why is that great? And again, a lot of it is just kind of pivoting back to former experiences that we have in the workplace, whether it was first job or, the last job or the current job.
Right. Absolutely. Now, the flip side of this is sometimes our employees, our team, they're always under the assumption that the grass is greener on the other side. So sometimes you might go through this and you might say, would I want to work here? And the answer is, again, an honest yes. We have good benefits, we have competitive pay, we have, all of these things. How can you, as a leader, get your team to understand that? Because sometimes they get in that mode where they just want to complain and focus on all the things that are wrong, and they lose sight that it still really is a good environment. How can you send those messages and connect them back without just feeling like you're kind of just not paying attention to them and not listening to them, but being real with them?
Right. And so meeting your employees where they're at is extremely helpful. And most of the time when people spend their time complaining, they're looking for some sort of validation that, yes, maybe that situation wasn't cool, but in the grand scheme of things, how about these benefits? How
Mm-hmm.
about that great company picnic we had? Or the way your feedback was shared, and changes were made in the company. How about, and these are conversations and things that take place over time. And so it's not going to be a flip a switch to get your team to say, oh, this is great. It's a combination of things, whether people don't feel like their salary is high, and maybe they're not looking at incentives and equity and benefits and the cost of that, of what the company invests in their employees. And it's not so much as just telling them, but it's showing them.
Mm-hmm.
Participation and belonging is so important in today's workplace. Yes, there's people that just leave me alone, I just want to do my job. There are ways that they can participate and belong. And that's where maybe that's a phone call. Say, hey, you're doing a great job, or anything. These kinds of things, these reminders. Other people may need to be at the table and may need to be, hey, I want to get your input on this. Let's put this team together so that we can figure out how to move forward on this task, or what have you. So it really is going to change depending on the personalities within your team. And if a leader treats everybody on their team the same, meaning, I know some people say, well, I got to treat everybody as individual, or the same, or else I'm going to be told I'm discriminating, whatever the case may be. There's a difference between treating them the same and also treating people individually, meaning everybody has different learning styles that they adhere to. Everybody has different listening styles, and generationally speaking, the motivations between the generations is different. What motivates a Gen Xer is not the same as what motivates a millennial. And so trying to educate yourself as a leader to understand that is, can be a game changer.
Yeah.
Once you can understand who is on your team and play to their strengths.
Exactly. Clarity in Action is proudly sponsored by Telehealth for Her, where women's health finally gets the attention it deserves. At Telehealth for Her, They offer professional, comprehensive medical care designed to optimize your hormones, restore your gut health, and boost your energy. Because let's get real, who doesn't need more energy? Your body is the foundation of everything you build. So let's make sure we are fine tuning it for optimal performance. So if you've been out there crushing it in life, but still feeling a little bit off with some of that brain fog, hormone changes, sleepless nights, or emotions that are all over the place, I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. Telehealth for Her helps ambitious women just like you take back control and feel like yourself again so that you can keep leading with purpose and power. Check them out at mariahprinceallen.com or Telehealth for Her and start your journey back to a vibrant, unstoppable you. Clarity in Action is proudly sponsored by My Cluck Hut. Yes, the soap company that is the one your mother should have warned you about. Now, don't let the name fool you. This eco-friendly soap company will get you clean without feeling dirty. But you know what? My Cluck Hut is about more than just getting clean. They have built and continue to grow a community that gives a cluck about the planet, about people, and about creating a reality where diversity and sustainability are not a pipe dream, but fundamental core values. So when you shop with My Cluck Hut, you're not just buying soap. You're choosing to be a part of something bigger than any one of us can be alone. So if you believe in shopping with purpose and from a brand that isn't afraid to speak truth to power, then go check them out, mycluckhut.com. The 2025 Tennessee Pride Chamber Allied Business of the Year. My Cluck Hut, it's more than a soap company. It's a clucking revolution. So let's talk a little practical application here. You're running a company, you're running a team. So you have all of those operational things in place. You have to keep growing yourself, so time needs to be allocated for that. You also have to be staying connected with your team on the human level and building trust with them. It's a little bit of Tetris. And with the idea that time is precious, it is valuable, how do you guide your people through getting it all done? Are there any tips and tricks that you'd use to help people put their schedule together? How do you connect with them to get them to see that all of this needs to be a priority and there really is space to do it all?
There is, and it's one of these things that most of the time taken is going to be at the front, setting yourself up for this, whether it be maybe you're just going to do a quick sheet on each person as far as who they are, their experience, like just jot it down to know, okay, this is what Jennifer does, this is what Tyrell does, this is and this is what they like, this is what they respond to, this is what they don't respond to. And taking some time to do that could be helpful, as well as incorporating some of these things into your routine. So we have routine meetings, and if we don't, we should have routine team meetings, and at least quarterly individual conversations. Incorporate some of these things into those. Have meaningful goals for your employees, meaning when you meet with them, it's not just going to be tick, 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 tick off a list. It's going to be personable, right? You're going to gear that and shift it towards, hey, you were working on this project. I really like how you did this. Take some time to really give the detailed feedback to the employee. Write it down. There's a difference between telling somebody, hey, in their annual review, great job. You did a great job this year. I really love how you work. Versus, hey, look, this year, I remember back in October, you had this client that you worked with and you were so hands-on, and it really saved the account for us because this person really felt like you put them first and understood. And you did the same thing back in May. So being able to recall things further back in time, and that's just writing a quick note after it happened. If something's memorable to your mind, write it down, stick it in the file.
Yeah.
right? Or write it down. I'm a little old school, but jot that down and put it in something, right? So that when it comes time to have these conversations, you have some details and it's not a lot of work. You took some time on the front end, and that's usually where all the time is going to be, on the front end.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, because again, it is all about laying that foundation right out of the gate and putting that together. So that's huge. So if you again were just kind of to sit back and we've talked about a lot of things, but if you were to sit back, if there was one thing that you could say to leaders, to managers, that one thing that you feel they need to hear and really hear more than anything else, what is that one thing?
That's a really good thing. There's so many. But the most important thing you can ever have is this trust.
Mhm.
Without trust and true trust, you trust that this person is able to do their job. You trust that this person says who they says they are, maybe because they're a new hire. You trust that your team knows what they need to do, that they're capable, and they have your back. Not just that, your team needs to trust that you have their back. Your team needs to trust that you know what they do, and you know that what the challenges are that they face. That back and forth trust, if it is broken at any point, then you run the risk of that question, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, very true. So how can you rebuild trust if it's broken?
It can be difficult. And it really depends on, it really does. I mean, in lawyer or HR speak, it depends.
Mhm.
It does. It depends on the parties involved and what the situation happened. But in most cases, you can regain trust by circling back to where you lost the trust,
Mhm.
to see how you can remedy that type of situation. What brought that on? How can, because it's not in your words, it's got to be in your actions. And it's not by buying them lunch or bringing them a cupcake or whatever. It's going to be meaningful, showing them that you care about the work that they do and the person that they are.
So good.
And that's very general, I get it,
Sure. Yes.
but specifically it's going to, that will depend, but you just have to go back and find out, okay, where did I lose it?
Right. And I think you're
And
right.
if you can't
And
figure out where you lost it, then you might not get it back.
well, exactly. And like you said, it's got to be in the action. So I love that. Teresa, I just appreciate everything that you're doing. You're really helping people to just do better. I know that that's again a very general way to say it, but you have such a passion for, just as I do, for building these healthier cultures so that the performance goes up. And I would love to just have you share for a moment, so what's next on the horizon for you?
So, and I'm glad you asked, because I am trying to build content related to that very topic. And so I am putting some finishing touches on a workshop, which is all about, would I stay or should I stay or should I go? And I'm super excited and hope to have it out here before the end of the year, to share with leaders, and whether HR leaders or company leaders alike, as early as next year. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, well, keep us posted so we can share it with the community. Very excited for you. And Teresa, I have one more question for you, and then I'll let you go and get on to building your empire. And that is, sitting where you sit today with everything that you've learned, how do you define success for yourself?
Wow. Success is something that you are fulfilled in a way that, whether it's accomplishments or it's feedback you get. To me, success is very small but meaningful, and an aha moment to me, if I can see somebody say, oh wow, right, that to me is success, is when I see that moment of clarity, if you will,
Mhm.
and I see that light bulb go off. And to me, that is all the success that of what I work towards, is just to help people see a better way.
Fantastic. Well, Teresa, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. All the best to you and your continued success. And I just You just really have brought us a lot in the areas of building trust, leading stronger, and again, motivating to inspire change. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Honest leadership is so powerful, and I think it's something that we don't always really pay attention to. Some of the things Theresa was talking about is asking yourself that question. Would you work for yourself? Would you stay? Would you go? And starting with why. Why would you stay or why wouldn't you stay? Go back and reflect. When was there a time that you worked in an environment that you loved? And how can you emulate that? Also, look at the things that didn't work for you. But don't be afraid to ask why and to look deeper. Everything's not going to be perfect, and you're going to evolve and things are going to evolve. But taking this pulse point every few months, definitely once a year, is huge. She talked about the importance of trust. And at the end, she said, that's the one thing she really would want leaders to know is, you set the stage, and building trust, it's the foundation for everything. And you will be able to inspire, you will be able to lead with trust. And if the trust isn't there, you need to look at what broke it down and how you can rebuild it. One of the other things she talked about is this importance of taking action and validating those. Again, it's not always agreeing, it's not giving them what they want, but letting people know that you hear them, you see them, you appreciate them. One of the things she talked about is this idea that you never want to make assumptions that everything's okay. Just because they might be hitting their goals, that doesn't mean they're okay. Because they're not hitting their goals doesn't mean they're okay. We should be checking in with our people, not just when there's a problem, almost even more so when things are good, letting your people know. And if people are hiding, don't just assume they're off doing fine, really check in with them. And then this idea of never forget where you came from. We've all started somewhere. So take some time out and really reflect. Maybe it's been several years, but what was your first year like? What were some of the fears that you had? Were you afraid of getting fired? Were you afraid of not hitting your goals and how that was going to look? All of those things, because we can never forget where we came from. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you took away some tips, and I really encourage you to go back, revisit this not only for yourself, but share this. Share this with your leaders, share this with your team members, share this with your peers, because together, when we start to work on these tools, we're all going to be stronger. I'm Clara Capano, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Clarity in Action.